Welcome back. I'm so excited about our second guest today, Lynn Garthwaite. Lynn is a children's author, but she also, in the second half of her life, has embarked on a new career. She has founded an organization called Books on Wings. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you.
Tell us about what Books on Wings is.
It's a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to get books into the hands of at-risk children. So the idea is to address the achievement gap. Get books to kids that perhaps don't have the resources at home and have struggled financially for a variety of reasons. They're not performing well in school, and our plan is to get them books. And we do it through their schools, actually. We deliver curriculum-based books with lesson plans to the classroom. And when they're done with the classroom experience, the lessons, then the books go home as a permanent gift. So they do get the learning experience from the books. These are all, like I said, curriculum related. And then they have the book as a permanent gift. And many of these children don't own a book in their households. So for some of them, it is their only book.
This had to be a big undertaking. How did the inner working, how did it come about?
Yeah, it started mostly because I had heard, like everybody on the news, how bad our situation was with the achievement gap. Minnesota does a fabulous job with education. We've always done well. We've always ranked high. But specifically on that focus on the achievement gap, we rank in the bottom half of the states in the country. And I was so surprised to hear that. It made no sense to me. And after thinking about this for a long time, I kept thinking, what can we do about this? And so the germ of the idea started. And I put together a kind of an advisory panel with this idea, because originally I just thought, here's a kid, here's a book, this is a good match, but that by itself is not enough. And so my advisory panel, we came up with a concept that we use now as our model, the getting them into the classrooms and tapping into what are the state curriculum qualities. And that's kind of how it evolved through that. So the advisory panel was a big start. Then I put together an actual board of directors as I was starting the paperwork process. And then that turned out to be one of the longest parts of the whole thing.
I'll bet.
So.
I'll bet that had to be very involved, and
Right.
it takes a lot of time. Did it take a couple of years?
No, but probably 8 months, I would say. I started looking into what the IRS requires to become a 501c3. And at first I thought, well, this shouldn't be a problem. I've done my own taxes forever, and so I can understand some of this terminology. But as soon as I started pulling out what the paperwork was really going to involve, and I was going to be required to have a business plan and then a long list of other things, I thought it was overwhelming. And I actually decided to give up 2 or 3 times along the way. And but then I was told about an organization called SCORE, and it's SCORE, and it's an organization of retired business people who volunteer their time to mentor people starting their own business, or in my case, a nonprofit. And so it's entirely free to the mentee, to the person being mentored, because they are all volunteers. And I signed up. I was assigned a volunteer and a mentor, and he walked me through the process, one step at a time. And because of that, and it started with, let's just file the name with the Secretary of State. Okay, I had no idea I needed to do that. I took care of that. Okay, now we've done that. Now let's start the business plan. And one step at a time, he walked me through the entire thing. That took a couple of months. And then when I finally had the packet of materials ready to send to the IRS, sent it off, and then that took another 6 or 7 months. So, 8 or 9 months probably total by the time I got the letter from the IRS saying we'd been approved. So we were ready to go.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been very nice.
Where do you get your materials from?
The books, we've been very lucky. We've entered into partnerships with a couple of booksellers. One of them is Scholastic, who most people with children know, and then the other is Majors and Quinn. It's an independent bookseller in Minneapolis. And both of them have bought into our passion, to our idea, and are excited to be helpers. And so with their very generous discounts, we buy books at, en masse. We might buy 60 or 80 copies of one title because we'll serve an entire grade level at a time. we can buy in bulk and we can buy at a discount. So that's been very helpful. And then the lesson plans, we're using retired teachers to write those for us, because it does require a licensed teacher to write the lesson plans. So far, we've been doing it on kind of a low budget. We're just now starting to, I've been taking classes. The Minnesota Council of Nonprofits offers classes in these things, and I've been taking classes on grant writing and tapping into small family foundations and that kind of thing. So we're kind of learning as we go along. We're about 1.5 years into it now.
Oh my gosh. And I bet you're just fascinated with all this.
It is. It's been a
Oh.
great learning experience for me. Now I get what nonprofits do and the work behind them, for one thing. But I no longer feel overwhelmed, because it was a one step at a time process. And then now that we've started to actually serve schools and be in the schools with these children and giving them the books, it is so amazingly wonderful. It's such a good feeling to know that you're helping some kids. And
Isn't
maybe
that great?
helping the community as a whole, because what we have discovered, I looked up some statistics, and in the juvenile justice system, 85% of all the kids in the system are functionally illiterate. So there's an absolute connection between literacy and crime for these kids that don't have, other options in many cases. So it's a cost to society. It's, it's a cost to these children and their families. And the other side of it, though, is that in the adult prison system, when adult offenders have been offered literacy help, the recidivism rate goes way down. In other words, once they've become literate, they have much more success once they're back in the outside world. So there is an absolute connection between literacy and these
course.
costs to our society. So
Are the schools welcoming to your programs?
very much, yeah. We've worked with 3 schools so far, and we've identified those schools through the Minnesota Department of Education. They have all kinds of statistics and things on their website. And they have a stat that's a focus rating that shows which schools are struggling in this achievement gap. And so we've identified schools based on that information, contacted them, and we haven't had anybody turn us down. They're very excited to have this in their school. And down the line, we hope to eventually enable on our website where people can invite or tell us about their school, to promote their school is a possibility. So it is not a problem to get schools interested in this. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the
that's-
community's response?
We've had some good luck. We've talked to some Lions groups, and Lions groups and Rotary clubs and those kind of groups are very much involved in the community. And they are very excited. We've gotten some funding from those groups because they're very excited when they hear, we may be working in their community, in their neighborhoods. They're very happy to jump in and help us with some funding. So we've gotten very good feedback on that.
That is so wonderful. Years ago, we would send books to other countries, but not to take care of ours.
Yeah.
And being that, you have dug down and got all this information, it's to see how much we need that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're a little bit in denial. We don't realize
Right.
the poverty levels. And right here in Minnesota, the poverty level or for children, 14% of Minnesota children live in poverty. The national rate is more like about 22%. So, compared to that, we do fairly well. But when you break it down to then children of color, for instance, or children from minority groups, those percentages go way up. But we have a tendency to just think all is well here, and we forget
That's
that there are
right.
kids actually starving in our country, and in this case, doing without some of the
Yes.
basic needs.
In
So-
this
Absolutely.
case, starving for education
Right.
and literacy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
That's so true.
And you can tell in their eyes when you go to these schools and they walk into we've done this like in the gymnasium, a big event, and they walk in and they see all these books on the table. These kids understand how
excited, aren't
special
they?
that is. They are so excited. We from the moment they walk in, we often hear, books. They have books. Look at all those books, and of course it just warms our hearts because my board, we're all passionate about books. We're all, either authors or educators, that type. This is our passion.
Well, do they know to go to the library to get books. It seems like they don't.
It's true, and often these are kids, again, they come from families that they may not have those resources. Now, libraries are free, but maybe they don't have transportation. Or maybe they have parents who are working 2 jobs to just make ends meet, and they don't have that kind of time. Some of them are in families where English is a second language, and so having them come home with books from school and go through it with mom or dad isn't always the easiest thing.
isn't, sure.
So these are often kids who don't have those resources in their home to even talk about books, and maybe their parents don't own any books. This just isn't
possible.
part of their lifestyle, and so they don't grow up with that in their homes. So, but the schools we work with are fantastic on this. These are all schools where these teachers and these staffs are passionate about it too. So when they're in the school, they are in that environment, you know,
that's so good.
and that's very welcoming and these are kids who want to do well. You know, you can tell they have dreams, you know, and they want to be successful. And, you know, it's not always their fault when they stumble along the way.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, we have to.
And their schools' libraries are not always along the same lines as what you're doing. There's a lot more fiction in there, and there's nothing wrong with fiction.
Right.
It's just you have a curriculum and you're stimulating their ability to learn.
Yeah, we did decide early on to focus on nonfiction, and again, we love fiction as well, but in our focus, we wanted to do the learning from the material first and reading as we go along. So, but we did find one of the schools we served did not have a media center. They did not have a library. They just did not have the budget for it. So in each case, we've been bringing in enough books for the students, plus additional copies for the classroom, and some additional copies for their media center.
That's a surprise to hear that any school wouldn't have at least some of the basic things
Right.
as far as a media center and library and
Yep.
that. That's a surprise.
In that case, it was a very small charter school, a tuition-free charter school, so the public schools do all have those kind of things, but even those have limited budgets. So, and they can't always turn over their material and get new material. Sometimes these kids are reading science books that are from the 1980s, and that's not particularly helpful.
What's your goal for this year?
We kind of set a goal among our board that we were going to try to serve 4 schools per school year, and that would be, and I should say we have narrowed it to K through 3, and there are statistics that show that you need to catch these kids by 3rd grade to really make the best impact. So we hope to help 4 schools per year, and then of course we want to expand every year. And right now we're focusing just in the metropolitan area, but we want to expand to outstate Minnesota and eventually beyond our borders and go national.
I was wondering if you were going to expand out. Well,
That's the
that
dream.
would really be exciting, and to go national, I think that would be, don't you think that?
I think
Yeah.
it would be wonderful.
That's the dream. And there are many, many organizations that do a lot of good things with books. Ours is just a little bit different because we do it right in their classrooms with the curriculum-related
Oh,
books. So
fantastic. Well, we're running out of time. Lynn, thank you for being here
welcome.
today.
Thank you.
This is really, this is an exciting organization. I'm sure it's going to go far. We'll be following it.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Diane,
Thank
and thank you
you.
for watching. We'll see you next time.